Hello and welcome to this webinar by the Independent Living Centre of WA. My name's Amy and I'm a speech pathologist here on the ILC Tech team. At the Independent Living Centre we provide a range of services that enable West Australians of all ages and abilities to live more independent and fulfilling lives. Our services include an assistive equipment service, the Noah's Ark Toy Library, the ILC Tech team, which is my team, ILC Hire, an occupational therapy and driver assessment team, as well as a range of services for grants and equipment funding and respite and community options. Today's webinar, Preparing Me, Communication Tools to Prepare for Transitions, will explore communication tools that might support people during times of transition, such as starting school, starting a new hobby, or meeting new friends. These slides are available for download from the ILC website if you haven't got them already. So throughout our life we go through times of transition that challenge us and require us to learn new skills. Transitions can be around starting and leaving school, changing schools, starting work or post-school options. Perhaps you're meeting new people such as new teachers, education assistants, support workers or doctors. And during times of transition, we often have to communicate with new people and learn to communicate in different ways. So for example, when I started work, I had to meet new people, I had to learn new words about the workplace, I had to learn new procedures and new routines. And I was really excited about starting, but I also felt a little bit nervous and a little bit anxious. Were the people going to be nice? How was I going to get there? What would happen if I was late? Lots of things run through your mind when you're starting something new, and we all find times of transition a little scary. What I'm hoping is that through this webinar that you'll get some ideas about how you might be able to support someone with complex communication needs during these times of transition. During times of transition, our social networks really grow. So for example, when a child first starts school, their social network generally consists of family and close friends who know them really well. And once they start school, their network rapidly grows to include teachers, peers, and other people in the school community. And for people with complex communication needs, meeting new people might be challenging, as how they communicate with their close family and friends might not be understood by the people that are new to them. Often our social networks don't just require face-to-face interactions, particularly as we get older. So think about how you communicate with other people. We connect by email, by Skype, by Facebook. And these might present more challenges for people with complex communication needs. There are a huge range of communication tools that are really easy to make and use, and that might help new communication partners to get to know the person with a disability or complex communication needs better. They provide a context to allow for more successful communication and provide support to the person to participate in new activities and to build new relationships. Communication tools come in all different ways, and often it's a combination of these tools that allows a person to communicate and participate more independently in their community. We're going to explore a range of tools, both what we call low-tech or paper-based options, as well as high-tech or electronic options. It's important to keep in mind that the tools we look at are only examples, and it's really important that we individualise and customise the communication support to the person with complex communication needs. Times of transition often require us to enter into new environments. This might be a new school, a new workplace, perhaps you're joining a new sporting club, or perhaps for the first time you've been invited to a party. I know for me that I like to be prepared if I have to go somewhere new. I like to be able to make sure that I know how I'm going to get there. I leave enough time to make sure that I'm not late, and that I have a bit of an idea of what to expect when I get there. For individuals with complex communication needs, we might need to provide them with some additional supports to help explain and prepare them for these new environments. So for some individuals, they need help to organise and plan what's coming up and what's happening in their day or their week. You might do this in the form of a calendar, a diary, perhaps setting reminders on an alarm clock or a smartphone, or perhaps creating a bit of a notebook to be able to record information in. Will help that individual organise and plan and feel a little bit more settled about the new environment or new task that they're about to do. So for calendars, these could be low-tech or paper options like the one on the left. What we've done is created a calendar for the month of January and added in some picture supports because this person has difficulty with reading, so we felt that having some images would support them in understanding what was coming up for that month. There are lots of apps and calendars now available on smartphones and on tablet devices. And you might use the calendars on these devices that have pictures, or you might set voice reminders for individuals that require some support with their literacy. I know for me, I can't live without my diary. I don't really know what's happening if my diary's not in front of me. And it's the same for individuals with disabilities and complex communication needs. Maybe you'd like to establish a bit of a diary for them. It can be a handy tool, not just for supporting someone to remember what's coming up, but also to remember perhaps what they've done last week, in the last month. And it can be used as a really great tool to start a conversation with someone about what you've been doing. You might just create a paper diary. If someone needs to have picture supports or photos, you might stick those in. And again, there's lots of apps available now on the tablet and smartphones which allow you to create diaries. You might look for an app again with photos in it that allows you to put in text. The one up on the screen is called Organizer HD, and it allows you to put in maps as well about where you've been. For some individuals, they might need some support in understanding what's happening today. During times of transition, a person's routine might change quite significantly, and that might be quite unsettling to them. So you might create a visual schedule like the one up on the screen with photos or picture symbols to show what's happening for that day or that week. You also might create a bit of a story about the day or about the new activity that you're about to do. These stories are often called social stories, and there's a link on the slide there where you can go and find out more information about how to write social stories. In the world of technology now, it's getting easier to get your hands on a video camera, and for some individuals the use of video might help them to understand the new routine or activity better than just a still photo or picture symbol. Perhaps that individual is going to a new workplace next week and they're a bit anxious about it and not really sure what to expect. You might go out to the workplace, take a video camera out there, film the building, film the entry of where they need to go. Perhaps you could get permission to film a bit about what they might be doing there. Then you can take that back to them and sit with them and show them about that workplace and that environment to help prepare them for their first day. Here are some examples of paper schedules. The one up the top is a schedule for a school day, so looking at all the tasks that have to be done that day. The one below is a first then schedule, so for some individuals they just need to know what task is coming next. So first they need to watch the music DVDs and then they can go on to the computer. There are also a range of apps that allow you to create visual schedules. These are some examples: Visual Planner, First Then and Picture Scheduler. They're all apps that are really popular for creating visual supports for particular routines and tasks. The apps often allow you to add in your own pictures and photos. You can often add voice in the apps as well to be able to give an auditory prompt of what's happening. And the apps do vary across different tablet technologies. So some apps are designed for Apple technology. Android have different apps as well. So you'll just need to search your app store, either on Google Play, on the Apple App Store, for apps that will allow for visual schedules. You can also use these schedules to help individuals that need some support to do tasks independently. Often in new environments, we do have to learn new tasks, or we have to learn to do tasks in a different way to maybe what we did at school or what we do at home. So using visual schedules and visual supports might be able to help that individual to be a little bit more independent in doing that task and learning it. So the one up on the screen is an example of one for a toileting routine. We've got the text and also some picture supports as well. You can create this just with paper-based options, use some Google images, take some photos. You might like to do a video of the task if you think that that's more meaningful for the individual. And there's also some apps that you can use as well to make these schedules. This is an example of a task schedule for making tea. We've broken it into steps and added some photos. Some examples of some apps that you might use. Picto, which I'm going to show you in a minute what that looks like. Picture Scheduler, iPrompts and Visual Schedule Planner are all apps that will allow you to create task schedules. I'm just going to take you out to watch a video of Picto in action. Picto is a really nice little app where you can create and customize talking photo albums. So the one I'm going to show you is about making custard. We've taken photos of each of the steps of making custard, and we've been able to add voice to it, add text, to be able to support that individual in making custard.
Making custard. First, zest the lemon and add to bowl. Next, add 60 grams of sugar.
Mix for 20 seconds on speed 9. Add 40 grams of corn flour, 2 eggs and 500 grams of milk.
So you can see how you might use that app to create instructions about how to do a particular task or routine. You could also use this app to make a bit of a story about what someone's been doing that day, a bit of information about themselves. Transitions generally mean that you encounter lots of new people. For individuals with complex communication needs, you may need to work with them to prepare communication tools that will allow them to communicate with people that they're not familiar with. So for some individuals, they might really want to tell people about themselves. And there are lots of ways that we can support them to do this. Communication passports are used to record information about a person, what they like, what they don't like, things that you need to know about them. And they're written from the person's point of view. So you can see in that example that we've used the term I. So I love music, I like to pull pranks on people, so watch out. And it's really important that they're written in a really fun way so that people want to read them. And they can often be a bit of a conversation starter as well, if you don't know much about that person. As part of this webinar series, we have developed a webinar on building communication passports. It's called Knowing Me, so you might want to go and have a look at that webinar if you're interested in developing a communication passport. Often during transitions, individuals get to experience new things, or they might be experiencing activities with different people. Often that might be a support worker or a teacher or an education assistant that they're with. And then that person tends to relay the information about what had happened during that activity or during that day to the parents or to the caregivers. I think that it would be great if that person could perhaps tell them more independently about what they've been doing, rather than relying on their support worker or teacher to relay the information. And there's lots of ways that we could do this. So we could use something called Remnant books. We could use chat books. Again, there's lots of apps. So that Picto app I showed you with the making custard, you could also do that with a bit of a story about yourself. And photos and videos can be great for sharing information. So for a bit more on Remnant books, they're really designed for use for initiating conversations, for sharing ideas, for interacting with others, and participating in successful communication interactions. They're a visual, tactile way of helping people record important events in their lives, and they're really easy to make. So you just need an exercise book or a scrapbook and start getting creative in sticking in things about what they've been doing and things that interest them. The individual might be really keen to be involved as well. They might be choosing what goes into the book or supporting you to create it. And that could be a really good activity if you've been out and about in the community. Maybe you've been to a cafe for lunch. That at the end of lunch that you sit down and start to write into the book what that person had for lunch. Maybe stick in the menu or stick in some of the food packets to be able to help explain to someone what that person's been doing. Remnant books don't need to be neat and tidy and perfect. You know, the individual might want to draw pictures. They might want to stick in different photos, tickets, business cards of places that you've been, any brochures, perhaps food packets of what they had for lunch that day. You could add in anything that helps describe the event. You might also need to write a bit of a blurb to support the pictures or the remnants that you've stuck in there, to give the person that they're communicating with a little bit of background information. And this can also help get the conversation going. You could create a chat book. This one's been created using a software program called BoardMaker. There's picture symbols to support the person tell what they've been doing at home. So there's some pull-off Velcro options that the person can choose and stick on what they've done that day. And then they can take it to school, maybe tell their peers or tell their teachers what they did at home over the weekend. There are lots of ways that we can support people with complex communication needs to communicate more independently when they're out in the community. As we get older, we head out into the community more, and we have to interact with unfamiliar people such as store owners, members of the public transport operators that might not be familiar with us and might not be familiar on how to communicate with the person. So some tools that you could use to support this are things like community request cards, communication books and boards. Different apps and different AAC devices might also come in handy so that the person can communicate themselves rather than the support worker, the parent or a friend communicating for them and relaying the information. So community request cards can be really handy for quick messages. You can make cards with an individual's food order so they can hand it over to the person at the McDonald's counter, for example. You could have information about the bus route that that person takes so that if they get lost or they're unsure of which bus they're on, they can have that card to hand to the bus driver, to another member of the public if they are lost or needing some support. You might put those cards on a keyring, such as the one on the screen. You might put it on a lanyard that they can wear around their neck, or perhaps put the cards in the person's wallet so that they can pull them out as they need them. Often having a card a bit about them and their needs might be handy for them to have out in the community. You might also decide to create a bit of a communication board for particular activities. So I've got some examples on the screen. The one on the top right was designed for a swimming lesson. So a child that's starting maybe with a new teacher or has never done swimming lessons before, perhaps they need some visual supports around the instructions that they might get during that swimming class. And I've just stuck it on a kickboard so it's always with them during the class. You might do a communication board such as the one at the bottom with some conversation starters, like, have you seen any good movies lately? How's the weather? They can be really handy for starting conversations with other people. You might also do up a board with some food choices or activity choices so the person has some control over what activities they've got on offer for that day. Again, you could use picture symbols such as the ones in these examples, but you could also use your own photos as well. Some individuals might need more words than those boards will allow, so you might consider making up a little bit of a book for them with all the words that they might need. And these can come in all shapes and sizes. So the one at the top is a business card size book, which might just fit in the person's pocket and they can pull it out as they need it when they're out in the community or communicating with someone that might have difficulty understanding them. Again, it's really important to customise it with the words that that individual needs and that's useful to them. There are a range of high-tech or electronic communication devices available that allow you to program in words for the individual and then have them spoken aloud. For more information on these kinds of voice output devices, you're welcome to contact us at ILC-WA. If you're in touch with a speech pathologist, they'll also be able to talk you through what kinds of device options are available to you. If you're in another state of Australia, again, chat to your local speech pathologist, and there are also independent living centres in each state of Australia, so you might like to look up their details and they will have some equipment on display to be able to show you. There are lots of resources out there for developing communication tools. ILC Tech has put some together. Our website's at the bottom of that list, where we've got some of the examples that I showed you today available for you to download and to use as examples to then be able to create your own. Also on that list, there's a list of apps for use on tablet and smartphone devices. So there's a list for Android apps and also for Apple apps that you might like to look at to find apps for communication, for organising visual schedules, etc. People often ask me, where do I get all the pictures from? A great place to start is your own photos. So if it's photos of the person themselves and things they've been doing, putting them into a bit of a photo album or maybe onto their tablet device so that they can share it with people might be a really nice place to start. You can use just clip art or Google Images to find pictures. iStock Photo is a website where you can pay for use of images. A lot of the resources that I showed you today was developed using software such as Boardmaker or Adobe Symbolmate, which essentially is a software of a library of picture symbols. The software is commercially available. We do have some available for hire through ILC Hire if you wanted to have the software for a short period of time to make up some resources. You can also download a free demo trial version of a lot of the software as well. So thanks for listening in to this webinar today. I hope it's given you some ideas to get started with to support the individual to communicate more independently and increase their participation in their community and new environments that they're entering into. I think the main thing is really to look for opportunities and be a bit creative and think about, well, what could I do to be able to allow this person to maybe communicate themselves more independently. If you would like any more information about what was presented during the webinar, you're more than welcome to contact us at the Independent Living Centre of WA, and our details are up on the screen there. We also have a Facebook page where we post information about new products, about workshops that are coming up. So please like us if you are interested in receiving that information. We've also recently developed a Pinterest page where we're collecting resources from across the internet and pulling them together so you can have a bit of a look through and look at what resources might be useful in starting to create some of these communication tools for the individuals that you know. We have an electronic mailing list as well, so if you'd like to receive our quarterly newsletter and other updates, please go to the website link and sign up. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope to hear from some of you for more information or what you've been able to create for the people that you're working with. Thank you.